That was really strange. All right. Creative community, kind folks out there. Wow. Thank you for joining me. I'm your host, DBJ. This is the channel RPG with DBJ. Today is Future Friday, and we end our series, our weekly theme, as it would be. I have to come up with a better way of describing it. Something short and snappy and sweet. Anyway, this week we were talking about details, nuance, subtlety, the little things in our RPG tabletop. And wow, you know what? This lime green is really bright. I didn't realize that. It's got a little bit of blue in it. Okay, so what are we going to talk about today? Well, normally we tend to default to the world's most popular role-playing game, which is Dungeons and Dragons. But one of my favorite, yay, Rickard, yes, one of my favorite subjects, themes in the tabletop RPG community is the far future, science fiction, and all that it entails. Now, we know that science fiction is huge. It is a broad scope. It covers so many things and so many blends of so many other genres, from science fiction westerns to intergalactic space battles, cyberpunk, any kind of dystopian or apocalyptic future, or what have you. So we're talking very generally. But one of the things that we as creators, us older grognardians, sometimes forget are the fact that we like to think of the big picture, but sometimes the small things, the little things, the bullet points, as you will, really can expand out our world creating and have the players feel very immersed into the world. So how are we going to use nuance and small details in science fiction? Well, a lot of that has to do with changing our expectations of what the future will behold. Just as in the past, where the adventuring party comes into a town and everyone is wearing red scarves around their necks, or they go to eat a fine meal and lift the cover off of a plate and they're served toasty beetles or whatnot. Same thing would happen in the future. And very much you can play with this idea that the expectation of what we consider normalcy, sitting down to have a meal, getting dressed, greetings, going about our day, is something that you can really pull upon to make life different based on where they go, whether they go to a different town or habitat, space station, another planetary surface. They travel intergalactically and whatnot. Rickard says non-visual senses. Is it really quiet? Are you getting tired? Is the breeze from the life support system no longer flowing back and forth over your neck as you work hard on planning the next jump? And again, I love that, because sometimes that subtlety, especially in our favorite intellectual properties, you can play with that. Like you said, Rickard says, yeah, though that quickly becomes non-subtle. Well, not necessarily, but I'm with you, man. Like when you start describing the airflow of the life support system, and you maybe, I don't know, a player character sleep in a bunk, and there's that one piece of paper that keeps fluttering from the life support system that maybe like annoys them as they try to take a nap, and suddenly that one little sheet of paper stops flowing. That's one of those things where it's like, it's subtle, but panic starts to ensue. A great example of that are being outside and it's quiet, and when I say quiet, all you hear are the natural sounds, insects, bugs, maybe the wind, the breeze through trees and such, and maybe a bubbling brook. And if that sound stops, or you're in a space station, there's vibration coming through the space station, and it's so subtle that no one ever pays attention to it until that vibration stops from the life support system, the spinning of the space station. Maybe there's like a gyroscopic engine or something. the fusion generators stop operating and humming. That is a huge clue as to, wait, there's something really wrong here. So the lack of detail, or the lack of the subtlety in the environment, I think is a great cue to pop off on. And sometimes there are things that you always hear about the space crew that has the terrible coffee, or the machines that just don't work right unless you like slam it on the left edge at the proper angle to get it to keep rebooting, whatnot. We've seen the Millennium Falcon go through that plenty of times with Han Solo and Chewbacca, as Han is trying to get the hyperspace navigation computer running, and he slams it with his fist and it pops back on again. So those kind of things are like the very subtle way to break expectation, so that we can like live in the world where maybe it's grungy or dirty, maybe it's very high tech and brand new, and the player characters are unsure how it operates. And then of course you got to go for cultures, right? Alien cultures, human cultures that have spread to other worlds. An example would be in Dune, Frank Herbert's Dune. They go to the desert planet Arrakis, and water is extremely valuable on this planet because the entire planet is one big desert. And of course, they're mining for spice, and there's a big political upheaval on the planet. But the important thing is that at one point in the story, the Fremen, the free men that live out in the wild deserts, people, the modern society, civilized society, not understanding how these people survive, there is a not a confrontation, but well, a social confrontation, if you will. And the Fremen at one point, who wear these skin suits, they end up spitting on the ground. And the main character is like spitting on it, like they spit on the ground. That's rude. Like I want to pull my blade and like, gut one of them before being rude. And it is explained to them that spitting on the ground is a sign of respect instead of being rude and aggressive, because water is so valuable that to spit on the ground is to show respect, that I am willing to give up from me a small bit of my moisture to you. So you could set up those little subtle behavioral things or language concepts or actions that are taken, that the crew, the adventuring party, on one hand thinks is one way, whether it's aggressive or nonsensical or a pleasantry, and then taken to its opposite and coming up with a reason why. Ricker says, quote, if you want to use the liquid dispenser, you need to have the ventilation fan set to max. Don't give me that look. I'm no mechanic. I just know that's how it works, which is a funny thing too, right? I mean, how many times in our own world, whether it's going to work or driving to work or in our own house, that, hey, we don't know how something, like why it operates the way it does. It just does. And I think that you can be kind of funny with that, a little tongue in cheek as well, as the fact that it may point you out to be a stranger when you don't understand that how something works, even though it's not supposed to work that way. Dead Man the Storyteller says that's true in Warhammer 40K. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, there might be a player character trying. For example, someone is wearing a workman's outfit and sneaking aboard the crew of another interstellar ship of a couple of thousand, and they're dressed like just any other worker, all oily and down in the depths of the engine room. But when the crew finds out that, why did you take the elevator lift to get to the cafeteria? And the player's like, because I wanted to eat. And they're like, you never take elevator 3 when you want to go to the cafeteria. And the player's like, well, why? Like, because elevator 3 always shuts down. And they're like, well, why wouldn't somebody fix it? Like, it's been fixed like 30 times. Just for some reason, when we go to lunch, elevator 3 shuts down midway. We don't know why. You just don't do it, and that may be the thing. Yeah, Rickard says, to be fair, knowing exactly how something works in Warhammer 40K will probably get you branded as a heretic. Yeah. Now, um, not understanding how something works, but just using it. I mean, that's a human thing too, right? We love ourselves some nuclear power, but like we still don't completely understand. We understand some of the physics, but we don't understand a lot of the ramifications. And why wouldn't that be in the future? Right? There might be alien technologies, weapons, energy sources, starships, all those kind of things. So there could be like a ton of repurposed starships in your setting, and over time just more and more pieces have just been replaced or added to them, and so the engines work, the ships can navigate, but no one knows how to build them. So there might be a finite number of them that are still working from an alien civilization that no longer exists, including the fact that maybe some of the chairs or buttons or functions in the ships might not be humanoid sized. And so they've probably been modified. Like there could be I don't know, there could have been an alien race that had like 4 arms plus prehensile feet. And so in order for humanity to pilot those ships, they actually need 2 pilots or even 3 to work all the knobs and such, where one 12-foot 4-armed prehensile footed alien probably just sat in the chair and did it on their own. So you could even include things of that nature. And as Rickard said, there are like non-visual senses. So not just like vibration or sound, there might be like a psychological thing as well. Plenty of times in stories where if you travel through a wormhole or hyperspace or go to some extra dimensional space to travel from one place to another, that the crew should be blindfolded or in stasis or somehow kept from witnessing the external portions of the ship. And if it's broadcast or you hear the sounds or you're able to see images like a 4th or 5th or 6th dimensional images, that it might drive you crazy. And that in itself may be a detail that the players may not know about, or it's like a wives' tale, right? Everyone knows that you're supposed to travel through hyperspace with your blast shields down. And whenever you ask someone, well, what happens if you don't have your blast shields down? They're like, well, why would you want to find out, right? Just don't do it. Rickard says space habitats near the border with an alien civilization might be more difficult to understand, as they have started to use words from the alien language and alien slang words, which is very much a thing, right? I mean, for people, we don't even realize how many words in here in the States in the English language are basically they're just, I don't want to say stolen. Well, they are stolen, but have been incorporated into our language so deeply that we don't even remember the origins of most of them, and you actually have to look them up. I mean, there are for example, the word entrepreneur or soiree or sortie or canoe. I mean, there's millions of words that we've adopted into our own language, and a lot of times it's a very easy, like you said, Rickard, like a slang or a shorthand. So border cultures with other aliens might have words that are shorthand to describe something that is very difficult for our own language to describe. So, for example, the aliens might have one word or a single phrase that describes the blending of 6 sentient minds into one mind over the course of 10,000 years, right? They might just have one word that describes that. They might have words that describe 4th, 5th, and 6th dimensional time and or space, or they might just have one word that describes a meal. And when you go to eat, when the human goes to eat the meal, they're like, wow, that tastes like my favorite food. And it was like, well, that's it. Hey Zev, what's going on? Zev says English is just Germans bastardized incest baby that looked at other languages and stole their vowels. Uh, you're so wrong. You're so right. um, but again, man, with using like little subtle details, I think if you really want to develop your intergalactic society, and you've got your star maps out, you're the game master, dungeon master, what have you, and you want to create these things. I love Rickard's idea of, if you have these border cultures and giving them, just give them a handful, 3 to 5 slang words or phrases or something that describes something that for us would be very alien, or describes for us in a very simple way something very complicated. Um, yeah, yeah, yeah. Ricker says, to be fair, English steals from everybody. I still cringe every time I hear ombudsman used in English. There I go, ruining it again. Ombudsman? I butcher. Wow. Yeah, I'm a perfect example of the lazy English tongue. So yeah, sorry about that, guys. But again, science fiction also allows us to, like the idea of the Fremen spitting on the ground and is considered to be respectful. I believe there's a Man Kazin War series back in the 80s. It was a book series where a bestial race, I believe they were like bipedal cat-like aliens. Anyway, when human beings would smile, the aliens, which were like tigers, basically, they were bestial, they had sharp fangs. They thought when human beings smiled and laughed that they were baring their teeth and they would get extremely aggressive and want to kill them. So you can play. That's a weird thing to do, because I'm sure the first PC to smile and laugh and getting killed would be kind of effed up. Uh, but to be honest, that's a great thread to pull on, where again the expectations that the players have about the world might be different, as well as taking, yeah, official pronunciation, um ombudsman. You see, guys, listen, you're gonna put umlauts over letters and things like that. I'm gonna hack it to death, man. Ombudsman. Nah, I still think I'm ruining it. Okay, so the another thing that we can play with when it comes to small details in science fiction is basically survival. What would life be like after humanity leaves the gravity well? David said you got it fairly close that last time. Oh, don't tell me that. I might be fooling myself later on. Like, oh, I can pronounce words now. Wow. Yeah, man. I hear you, Rickard. So, um, for example, when humanity goes out into space and we decide to leave Earth's gravity. Yep, you're absolutely right. Yeah, and it will never be pronounced correctly by him again. That's kind of a theme here, along with mimics and squirrels. But getting back to the point, we go out into space. So you get 100 colonists. You send them off into space. Well, what things change, right? When you go to order a drink and it's in a light gravity or zero gravity realm, you probably have to drink from a probably air pressurized bulb. With light gravity and zero gravity, there are things that we normally take for granted, such as reading a book or eating a meal, or holding some kind of handheld item that will float away. So it might be very common for items to be magnetic or velcroed or attached by cables or things. Same thing with hell, and the same thing with hair, right? Long hair would just float free in space in a big, essentially a big giant ball. Same thing with a fire. A flame would not crackle upwards without gravity, but would actually just be one big ball of flame. I guess with the flame, well, how would a flame be fed? Anyway, long story short is that things would change. The idea that people recycle everything would be a common trait amongst spacefarers, void runners, where humans that are coming up from the mudvilles go out into space and are throwing things in the trash and whatnot. They might not realize that, hey, we need every piece of material we need. Zedman says fire in 0G is a sphere. Right, because the oxygen is not flowing from the bottom being burned in the flame going upwards, but it would be a sphere. Although from what I understand, a lot of fire could easily be put out because it's not being fed gravitationally. I can't remember how that works. Wow. Zev says we go colonize a world that has atmosphere, air, water, wildlife. It's perfect until it swallows them whole and turns into a mimic. Yeah, a whole living planet, Ego, the living planet, and whatnot. Which that is a thing, although not very subtle, but that is a thing that exists out in the world, especially if a race of people lives on a planet and at certain periods of time where they do certain things on the planet, and humans are like, why are you dumping your leftovers down into those wells? And they're like, well, it's not really a well, it's actually like a feeding tube for the entire planet. Oh man. Ricker says Babylon 5's human Minbari war was caused by a cultural clash where the Minbari showed respect by having their weapon active, though not targeting anything. So not unlike the Fremen and the Spit. Yeah, and using ancient cultures, there was a thing about having either your weapons bound or shaking someone's hand, the hand that normally holds a weapon, and like you're describing in Babylon 5, the Minbari War, about having showing respect by having your weapons active but not aimed at anything. Almost maybe for them it might be a sign of trust, whereas for regular human beings, was like, wait a minute, did you just pull or do you have your finger on the trigger? Like, we're about to have a fight. So players learning those aspects and then having the cultural clashes between, maybe there's one or more players are aliens from certain races, just like the classic Klingons and their blades and their warrior culture or what have you, that each culture may hold certain things, may find them important, whether it comes to, and like I said, when you use nuance, you use little details, it may be that one culture doesn't speak unless spoken to first, or they have an elaborate greeting ritual, or they sleep in strange locations or positions or something. It may be very common for one alien race to all sleep in a big pile on the floor. 20 or 30 of them, we all just sleep on each other's stomachs and chests and use each other like a pillow. Whereas the other humans are like, you might want to lay off because I can't breathe trying to sleep, yeah. Ricker says world mimics taken to the next level. Well, where do mimics come from? That mimic chest just came from is a explorer from another world. Maybe that'd be kind of weird. I would love that. In Mass Effect, the Elcor communicate through a subtle language that can't be understood totally by other races. So to get their emotions and words understood, they state their emotion before speaking. I like that. Like quote, annoyed. What do you want, human? Don't you have somewhere else to be? I like that. That would be very cool to have, like you're mentioning, like have an alien race that they don't have the same body language and facial features as humans. So it may be normally it could be a normality in the galactic culture for them to state their emotional imperative up front, or maybe an android species on a whole planet, they're all artificial. Maybe they wear little discs that show a face that like an emoji disc, and they wear it on their chest. And whenever a particular they want to express a particular emotion, the emoji image just shifts. The eyes shift, the mouth shifts into how they feel, and then they start talking. Even though how they talk might be monotone, the image might be different. So I love that as well. Rickard says, building on the Elcor, the my brain just shut down. Star Wars. I can't remember. I'll get it in my head. Anyway, I got it. It's on the tip of my tongue. Sorry. The Star Wars droids also preface their sentences with a type of sentence that is inquiry, and like a I see what you're saying, like a inquiry. Hey, sir, what did you need today? Or a statement and stuff. Yeah, yeah. Star Wars: The Old Republic. Thank you. Oh, good news about that is, from what I understand, that they're probably doing an old. There was a good chance they might do an Old Republic, but I can't wait for something like that. Yeah, I can't wait for it. I hope they put it on their Disney streaming channel. I would love something like that. Everyone says, slyly, well, I do have more select stock of weapons and gear for the right price. Yeah, and what a strange way to communicate when if your voice is monotone, but you're trying to be like intimidating or sly or seductive. Seduction. I am trying to bed you and breed with you, human. Anyway, but language is a great thing to play with. Of course, food. You got to have some fun with food. You know the we know that insects are a great source of protein, and other than food extruded out of the soy machines or the nutrient the gray blocks of nutrient matter that are like extruded out of the machines that we normally think of in the far future, we may have a number of plant and animal life either genetically modified from Earth, something that we normally don't think of as being a meal on Earth, or alien creatures and flora and fauna that we can have a lot of fun to play with, whether it's another bowl of toasted insects or worms or certain types of rooted plants. And of course we have to have something that you got to eat that's alive. You got to eat something that's still alive that wants to run off your plate. You know what I mean? Ooh, Zevron says the Hanar are giant jellyfish that communicate telepathically and refer to themselves as this one. Um, uh, the iconic Yoda talking backwards is a detail. You could have an alien race, whether it's telepathically they communicate, or maybe the aliens have tentacles on their hands or on their faces or something, and for them it's no big deal for them to entangle their tentacles around others of their kind to communicate. But the humans, when they communicate with them, to be entangled by this jellyfish, squid, kraken, Cthulhuoid type creature might seem a little bit scary, even though maybe they're just trying to communicate telepathically. That's all. Yeah, as everyone says, this one wishes to greet you to this station, as the tentacles wrap all around your shoulders and head. Yeah. Ricker says, could always do the Asian thing of eating things half alive. That's true. Half alive, or maybe the process of eating what it is something that we think is very bizarre, but might be very common for its nature. For example, there might be fruits that you crack open, but there's something alive inside of the fruit. There could be a, an alien animal, maybe small, like a marsupial or something, that disgorges some sort of waste product, but it is very nutritious and tasty for us. Although, your normal human is like, why am I eating out of the cat litter? you know, Dead Man says Yoda's speech was inspired by Old English. I could absolutely see that. I know that some of the other aliens, which I really love, I've always loved from Star Wars, and they've used this plenty of times for other science fiction, where the alien speaks in their own language, but the humans in the show always respond with human language, right? Chewbacca, um, R2D2, and the other robots and aliens always see, Jabba the Hutt, speaking their own language, but everyone else responds in English. um, Part of it, of course, is having fun with the audience, because Chewbacca can make a ton of jokes, and of course, Chewbacca never says the joke, but we hear the punchline on the end of it from Han Solo. But another way to play with that, of course, is the fact that maybe the humans can't pronounce. It is understood that humans can't pronounce the alien language, so we've just defaulted to the fact in this intergalactic society that, yeah, the humans aren't going to speak our language, but at least they hear it and can understand it. Oh man. Rickard says, I know they have it. He says, I know they have it in Japan, but I recall it being a thing in other places in Asia as well. Oh, the idea of eating things that are half alive or newly dead, recently killed. I don't know how you would describe that one. Zev says, my favorite one is the Drell from Mass Effect, amphibious humanoids with pitch black eyes that have solipsism, the ability to perfectly slip into memories. They can feel everything from a memory as if it's happening again. So remembering a gunshot is painful, but afterwards you can realize it's fake. You can remember the kiss of a lover, etc. They do specify that it's not perfect. Quote, if we could remember the birthing trauma, I'm sure we'd never function properly. Ooh. Having an alien race that remembers things, or is able to, in other words, instead of able to vocalize, but actually put you into a like a dreamscape or a mindscape of exactly what they're imagining or feeling, is a great way to not only impart information to the players, but again, the communication might be so perfect that someone could get lost in it. Like you're saying, like remembering the kiss of a lover, or a great vacation, or something traumatic, like the the death of a loved one, or like you said, the pain of a gunshot, or the embarrassment of being bullied or something as a child, might be a great way to disseminate not only information to the players, but to have them to have the chance that they could feel that trauma all over again, as if they were a child, or as if they, once again felt maybe they got over the death of their loved one, but then they see it again over and over again, and maybe they like wake up with trauma or something like that, which might be a good side effect for like sci-fi tends to deal with a lot of psionic abilities, so that might be a side effect of using or having or being granted access to extrasensory perception or something. Ricker says, in the Japanese case, newly dead to the point that when you, you pour soy sauce on it, it starts moving around. Yeah. Hey, what's the is it the tigerfish? There's a poisonous fish that if you do not, it takes an expert chef to fix the meal, because it has an extremely poisonous gland in it. Is it the puffer fish? Yeah, sorry, I thought it was a tigerfish. I think that's the one that's extremely poisonous, but it's just alive. But the puffer fish, yes, it's the puffer fish. If we have a puffer fish on Earth, there's got to be an exotic alien version of the same thing, where there's a I don't know, some kind of alien scorpion, or come up with something really strange and bizarre that, oh, you're able to eat the fruit, but don't suck on the seeds because they're poisonous, or yeah, eat anything all the meat on the inside of this creature is green, but if you see something blue or yellow, you might want to stay away from that because it'll paralyze you for 6 months, something like that, right? Yeah, Fugu Tesla brings up. Um, wow, Zev says, if I remember correctly, the Japanese eat things mostly dead, but still alive because the belief that eating purely dead things will corrupt the body, and by corrupting body, you corrupt the soul. Now, again, here we go, and I love it. We now we go down. We return to cultural biases. Um, Sometimes we do things based on tradition and culture. The idea of stepping on a crack or breaking a mirror or the number 13 or walking under a ladder is considered bad luck. And at some point in time, people thought that was real. And so as you fast forward into present day, there are many people who still believe that, or at least they don't believe it, but they're like, you know what, I'm not going to take any chances. I still am not going to, go to a hotel and go to the 13th floor and get the room 13, which is why so many buildings do not have a 13th floor or a number 13 on their elevator buttons or what have you, right? So you could have it makes perfect sense for not just an alien race but humanity in as they spread across the cosmos from here to Mars or the moon or Jupiter or well beyond the Oort cloud or the Kuiper belt, that they're going to have certain folklore and traditions that are common amongst them. Even if even themselves as scientists, they're like, yeah, before we go inside, we always take our hand and rub the hole 3 times before we proceed inside. And they're like, well, why? Like, well, it's just good luck, man. Hey, didn't I just tell you to rub the hole 3 times? You know what I mean? Rickard says, extrapolating for that, a food that all the aliens see as a delicacy and eat gluttonously, but it's poisonous to humans. Oh, yeah. Oh, absolutely. And he says vice versa. Cat food and aliens is one of those things that we've seen in movies. I mean, humans might like, hey, everything tastes like chicken, and the aliens are like, oh my god, chickens are dangerous to us, they're poisonous. and I mean, absolutely, a chocolate bar, the typical human explorer that walks with the chocolate bar that wants to offer it as a peace offering to an alien might kill them. It might cause it might cause an uproar. Like, what did I do? I gave him a Clark bar or something. Like, nope. Should have kept that almond joy to yourself. Zev says, oh, well, certain medicines humans use is also poisonous, and an alien race or culture might even think that's bizarre. For example, humanity we tend to find cures from the very things that can harm us. And a very paranoid alien race may think that humanity is crazy for developing like cures for allergies and vaccines from the very things that could kill us. Whereas for them, they may try to eliminate those dangers. For them, for example, an alien race might think, well, why do you have poisonous snakes on your world? Why wouldn't you just destroy them all? And for humanity, we're like, well, they're part of the ecosphere. And the aliens may say, we don't care. You've got poisonous creatures and dangerous. You've got mosquitoes on your world. We're not visiting until you destroy them all. Zev says, quote, in high doses, it causes internal bleeding, but in low doses, it gives pleasant dreams. Yeah. Yeah. Isn't that the ramifications of just about every addictive drug on Earth? In low doses, it helps you out. Oh, okay. Yeah, in high doses, it'll kill you. Wow. Absolutely. Rickard says China and Japan at least tend to flat out not have a 4th floor or 14th, 24th, etc., as 4 is phonetically close to death. Ooh, I did. Now, I see. I've never known that. I know there's numerology involved in it, so I didn't know that. But makes perfect sense, right? If I went to Japan or China at this very moment, I would be kind of thrown off by that. I wouldn't know that until someone explained it to me, or until I offended enough people for someone to understand that I don't understand, and then they explained it to me. Because that's probably usually what'll happen, right? I go somewhere that I'm not familiar with culturally. I say or do things that are rude. People take offense because I'm stupid and ignorant, and then someone pulls me aside, hopefully, and says, knocks me on the head and says, "Idiot, stop doing that." The idea of course, today we already know that shaking hands and bowing are both considered forms of respect and greeting. But back in the past, that wasn't a thing, right? When the English explorers hit Japan and the English explorers reached their hands out and the people there started bowing, they're just like, wait, what the hell? What? Who? And someone amongst them had to say, hey, guys, listen, it's the same thing, right? Just relax, you know? Zev says, human, do you have a death wish? Why do you wish to take medicine to get rid of symptoms of flu? How would others know you're sick? How would you know you're getting better? Yeah. Do you wish for there to be an outbreak? Exactly. I mean, and here we are, we're having a little bit of fun. I mean, we're picking with ourselves, right? But it's the little things that we have, that we do, that we are as a people, that when taken to the extreme, when the little subtleties that we have when taken to the extreme with the alien culture might be like really bizarre. I mean, even let's go back to the telepathic tentacled alien star jellyfish, right? They may not understand the difference between our waking selves and our dreaming selves, um, or what our conscious minds or subconscious minds are. So when we sleep and have nightmares, those alien races might be pissed off at us. Like, what is? They might be like storming into our rooms. Like, what are you doing? And as human, you wake up, you're like, oh, why? Who woke me up? Like, uh, you're gonna have to leave our ship because your subconscious mind, we don't understand. Like, I don't. We're trying to communicate with you, and you're jumping off of rooftops and then being stuck in closets and imagining, sleeping on a beach and stuff. And, the humans are like, no, we're just a little stressed. And when we go to sleep, it's just our subconscious mind going through problems and stuff. And the aliens might be like thinking like, yeah, no, you can't stay here because we can't tell the difference whether you're awake or asleep. um, Ricker says you might legitimately see a 3A or 3B floors instead, or just skipping it and going 1, 2, 3, 5. Oh, wow. They think we die for 6 to 8 hours a day because we don't move. Ooh. Oh, man. We're at war with the aliens. Why? Because they dumped us into space? They're poking the humans psychically poking the humans like, that's weird. How did they get into space if they just up and die all the time? I love that. I love that a lot. Oh man. Zeb says some of us for only 2 to 4 hours. Hey, there's even more of us walking around performing very important jobs, and they're walking around half dead as well. Oh man. Or cries for more sleep. I hear you, Zeb. There could be aliens that not only communicate with us, but the bacteria that we have in our own bodies, and they may give the bacteria inside of us as much respect as ourselves, and they may not want. I mean, it could be the opposite of being pure. They may want to save or cherish the bacteria that human beings carry with us because they know that bacteria might, in, I don't know, a million years grow to become a sentient species or something. That'd be kind of weird and strange. Rickard says alien diplomats panic as they think they've killed the human envoy. Exactly. Like, well, we didn't. The aliens could be very apologetic. Like, we didn't know. We thought they died. I mean, what were we supposed to do? The Japanese word "shi" pronounced like "she" means either death or for. Yeah. Martial arts. 1 through 10. Ichi. I'm pointing to my knee. Sun. Shi. Go. Rokyo. Chi-Chi, Hachi, haha, Hachi, Cool, and Ju. Anyway, it's a very difficult to do this off the top of my head, but yeah, that was how we used to teach the kids how to count from 1 to 10 in Japanese. Anyway, Zeb says, elves look at us in confusion. Your lives are already so short. Why waste half a night with your eyes closed? Come on, up and at 'em. We have magic to study. Yeah. I thank you for detouring me, because I also wanted to talk about some other things that we take for granted. Sleep cycles. Sleep cycles are a thing. A world that has a 37-hour sleep cycle would throw the humans off if they're still in a 24-hour sleep cycle. The American naval military has a disjointed hourly system, especially I know one of my coworkers was in the Navy, and it was in a submarine, and their sleep cycles are they are not 24-hour sleep cycles like night day, but they are modulated to account for being underwater and not having the normal night day cycles. As a matter of fact, you could also have humans that move to like Mars and other planets might have adapted themselves to a different night day sleep cycle. And Zev says, God, the stores are still closed. It's hour 30. That's a thing. Here's something that you almost never see in science fiction, but we're dealing with at this very moment that we're doing this live show in the chat. And that is, when you are on one side of a planet, it is a certain time of day, but the other side of the planet, it is a different time of day. And you very rarely see that in science fiction, where one person is communicating in his early morning with someone else on the very same planet, or in a floating habitat or something, and it is a different time period where the other individual is at. Now, I understand it's for brevity, right? Two characters are talking. We don't really care what time it is, but if you're in a cyberpunk world and it's 5 o'clock in the morning in Japan, and you're communicating with your weapons broker in Hawaii, who also is making a link to someone in Madagascar who is being overseen by a core of hackers in Yugoslavia. These are all different time periods, all connected on a global network, all communicating together. And yes, they are different time periods. The banks might be open or closed, that kind of things. Yeah, Zev says, well, I always wondered how people in space outside of Earth count years. Say they live on a planet that has an 87-year-long cycle, but their species only lives to about 100. Ooh, that that is a very complicated detail to work out, especially with like you're mentioning. If does an alien race count what we count as a year? A planet with an elliptical cycle might be different. Remember, we have to include the spin of the planet as well as the orbit of the planet. And so we count years. They may not count them as years. Maybe it's measured by how close it passes to other planetary systems. It could be measured by the rotation of their moons or whatnot. So that might be very important as well. So yeah. Ricker says, sorry to keep bringing up Japan, but that hour 30 did remind me. Stores or clubs that are open from, say, 13:05 actually list hours 13:29, which is 24 plus 5. So no reset of clock until the shift has ended. Oh, I think I get what you're saying. I didn't know that. That's another detail I didn't know. And of course we have, military time, right? 24 hours. Clocks might be different in space. Who's to say that someone doesn't modify a clock to be a 37-hour clock? Or what's been suggested in Mars is to use a 24-hour clock and just to stop all the clocks to account for the additional spin. So there's I'm doing air quotes, dead time, and then start the clocks over back to 24 hours again. Um, yeah, Rickard says 1300 to 5 becomes 1300 to 2900. I didn't know that. Looks strange as all hell and takes a while to understand when they actually close. I didn't know that. My brain is still trying to wrap around it. Like, I get it, but yeah, wow. To see it, unless I lived in a culture for quite a while, it'd probably take me a couple of months. I would look at it and like, I don't understand. My brain hurts. Yeah. Oh man, wow, that's cool. Zev says, I remember as a DM, I had an NPC romanced by a human player. The NPC was an elf and asked how old they were since it was their birthday. They said 27. The elf's eyes widened in fear. Ooh. Yeah, a long-lived race may not measure a year the way we do. Zev says, my baby sister's barely 25. She hasn't gone to primary school yet. Am I a criminal? Yeah, playing with age and time factors are a thing. Not only that, but of course, you can get the time dilation, which is a problem itself. But let's spiral back to some of our small details, and then we'll end the chat. And then I will tell you what next week's theme will be. So, having little small details, again, small details such as again, language, fashion, culture, those things, a couple of bullet points when your players go to different worlds, I think would be a great way to really just spice up the flavor, especially if they're visiting different planets, different space habitats, dome cities, and those kind of things. So, yeah. But anyway, for next week, we are going to talk about celestials and angels. I forgot. It was suggested in the Discord, and I forgot to do it. So we're going to do it all next week. Angels and celestials. Yes, we're going to talk about them as adversaries, third pillar, even future Friday is going to talk about angels and celestials. So yeah. So anyway, guys, my salutation. Don't measure your loves by your hates. Everyone out there, have a great one and have a great weekend. I'll see thee Monday. Maybe demons. Maybe we're going to touch upon them, but we're going to primarily focus on the celestial aspect. But yeah, but they're going to have to come up. Demons and devils and fiends and those kind of things. What are the other ones called? Daemons. It's pronounced demon anyway, but you get it. That's cool, Sam. All right, guys. I'll see you tomorrow. I'll see you Monday. Everyone have a great weekend.